Morning everybody, Jeff from Rust Bucket Valley Garage. We're going to be doing valve cover gaskets on the 99 RAV4 this morning, and we're going to get right into it and show you what's going on. Afternoon everybody, Jeff from Rust Bucket Valley Garage. We're working on the 99 4runner. We got the air conditioning all buttoned up, as you'll see in the last episode, and so now we have to do valve cover gaskets on it because both of them are leaking. We kind of looked at it yesterday afternoon, and we looked at the passenger side, and the passenger side didn't seem terrible. So we went ahead and got that knocked out this morning. It didn't really take much to take and get this valve cover off. One thing that we did find is, you notice the coil packs here, and then they will have another high tension wire that will go over to the other side of the engine to fire those cylinders. So we have each one of these coil packs. You have the voltage trigger that goes in here, and then you have a high voltage line that comes on here into this little terminal right here, and it will take and go fire the other set of cylinders. So you notice this terminal right here is gold color. It's all nice and pretty, all that kind of stuff. We looked at the one for the first cylinder on the right, which I haven't looked it up. I believe it's number 1. This one right here is not looking healthy. It's very corroded. Used terminal cleaner on it. It did not clean it up, so we ordered another one of those. We also took a look at the connector that goes on it. The retaining clip is broke on it. This one right here doesn't really look that bad. There's some corrosion inside. When we smelled it, it smelled burned. Okay, so we got a new set of wires for it. We're going to be putting those on there. So it is cylinder number 1 because it says number 1 on the wire. Okay, so we are basically finished with this side. We are looking for the coil pack to take in and replace this one right here. That we don't want to take and put this back on here. We are check with the customer. Got authorization to take and go get another one. So you know, that'll make this thing run a whole heck of a lot better. To get to the other side of the engine, you'll notice that the intake manifold is right down on top of the valve cover. So there are 3 or 4 bolts that are underneath the intake manifold on this that are completely inaccessible, and this cover is leaking. You can see right down here that everything is wet. You can see the exhaust manifold is wet, so it's been leaking oil. So we got to take and get this one changed. So that means that we have to take the intake manifold apart. It's a 2-piece manifold. We just about got this part ready to come off. We still have a couple of hoses here to disconnect, and then that will come off, and then we have to take the main body that goes into the center of the engine to the actual intake manifold that's underneath it, that spans the 2 sides of the cylinders, and we have to take that, I guess it's like a plenium. Okay, you have to take the plenium off. So we'll as we take and move along, we'll show you our progress, and hope you get a kick out of it. This is not the hardest thing that I've ever done. It's not the easiest I've ever done. So hope you follow along with us. So as you'll notice, we have the top of the intake manifold off, and we still have to take this one air off. We left the throttle body. We took that off of the top of the intake manifold because these two hoses underneath here, we couldn't get it to clips and couldn't get those off. So we just go ahead and pull a whole assembly. So when you're taking apart something like this, we know the manufacturers hate mechanics, so we kind of do things our own way. So as you find areas where you can take something apart and it's easiest for you, go ahead and go for it. You know, the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking the bottom part of the intake manifold off, and then we should have full access to the valve cover, which is directly underneath it. One thing that I did notice in pulling off the bottom part of the intake manifold, there are two bolts right here, the shiny ones that hold this line right here, and those are not really accessible until you take and lift this whole assembly up and kind of turn it like this, and then you can take and get those two 10mm bolts out of there, and then the manifold is ready to come off. So go ahead and put this aside. It can sit there for a little while. So now we have access to the driver's side valve cover assembly that we can go ahead and take that off, put new gaskets in there, and it's been leaking on the inside too. You can see all along the margin here that it's full of oil. Now would be a good time to take and replace the plug wires because everything is readily accessible. So you just got to make sure there should be numbers on the wires. If there are not numbers on the wires, go ahead and mark them, because at the store I took and I pulled the box that had the new wire set in it out, and there are a couple of lengths that are similar, so it's really easy to take and get those things mixed up, and that's a good way to take and make trouble for yourself. So we are going to pop all the bolts out of this and go ahead and change that cover off, and then we are going to take and have to order an intake manifold set gasket. Unfortunately, this is a little bit of a pricey item. Through AutoZone, not a sponsor, about 180 bucks for the 4 or 5 gaskets that are involved. There's this gasket here goes to the bottom of the intake manifold. Then this manifold comes around and goes like this. There's another set of ports on here. There's another gasket that goes on there, and then as it comes over the top, there's another gasket for the throttle body to the intake manifold. Want to replace those because they look like they've been leaking a little bit. This one here looks like it's been leaking for sure. So that would be an air leak. It would give you mass airflow problems. They can start throwing all kinds of stupid codes that you have to take and troubleshoot. And then the way you take and troubleshoot air leaks is you'd have the engine idling, and then you'd spray all the connections with ether. And when you get a change in engine RPM, then you'll know you found a leak. So is it an easy fix? You know, well, it kind of depends where it is. Okay, so we're going to continue on. We'll continue back after we take and get the parts. And this afternoon we're going to continue on and do the valve cover on this, since we already have the parts for this one. I wanted to show you something. This right here is the gaskets that you get. These are Felpro gaskets, not a sponsor. The gasket for the cover fits extremely well. It's one of the best fitting ones that I've seen. Okay, these things right here are for around the spark plug tubes. Don't get these in upside down. Generally, when you put a seal in, it goes in like this in the assembly, whatever it is. These ones go in like this. Okay, so when you have these should press in with your fingers. They're very pliable. There's no sealant required, but there's a chamfered area that's right in here that when you take and put the valve cover on, you want this little skirt here to go down like this over the spark plug tube, and then there'll be a coil pack that will go down through the center and seal the top of it. Okay, so don't get those puppies in backwards, and you'll have good luck. So we'll continue on when we get all the intake manifold gaskets. So after getting the intake manifolds all taken off and everything, we put a rag down in there so we won't be dropping anything down inside the engine, and then we just finished pulling off the driver's side or left side valve cover, putting a new gasket on there, and it really needed it because it was really leaking. We got a new seals in there. Since these spark plugs are so hard to get to, we went ahead and pulled one out. This doesn't look terrible. Okay, so we won't be replacing those. We'll go ahead and put those back in, and we did get our brand new coil pack in here, and we got that installed this morning. So we're going to go ahead and put our plug wires on, and then next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the bottom portion of our intake manifold on, get that all connected up, and then the top part of the intake manifold. And we have new gaskets for everything, and we're going to be torquing those to 13 foot-pounds, okay, which is the manufacturer's recommended. Okay, and we'll get on with it. So we have our new plug wires installed here, and we have them routed around, and we did it very easily. We replaced them one at a time so that we could match up the length, and we could take and make sure we didn't take and mix the wires up, because that's the last thing you want to do is start troubleshooting, you know, because you mixed up the firing order. So one thing we did notice is right along here there's a plastic tray, and when we took the valve cover off, we had a lot of pieces break off from that because it's made of some kind of ABS plastic, and ABS plastic in an engine compartment doesn't really take and fare very well. It gets very brittle and everything. So we do have exposed wiring loom. So we are going to be rewrapping that with some high temp tape that we have, and then we'll be able to take and make sure we have everything else put to bed that we can take and put to bed with the exhaust or the intake manifold off. You always want to make sure, here's one of the ground wires, okay, make sure we got those on there, and anything else that could take and cause a problem. So we'll go ahead and we'll tape this up, and then we'll put the intake, the first part of the intake manifold on. Okay, so we have the first part of the intake manifold put on, and everything's torqued down, 12 foot-pounds. The gaskets, when you go ahead and you put the gaskets on, this is a spare set by the way, and they're made out of like a fibrous material. I always take and use this material. This is a, it'll look gold when you go ahead and put it on. It's probably got copper in it or something like that. I want to make sure everything seals up. Whenever you have a critical application, like you don't want air leaks all over the doggone place, you want water leaks all over the place, go ahead and spray the thing with that, and it works very well. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take and put all the things back on. Like you notice, there's a little bracket here. That's for the connector for the onboard diagnostics. and we'll take and bring over the cables and everything that we need for the next section. So you want to take care of everything you can at this point, so you're building in stages. Okay, don't leave anything behind. Take and watch your hardware. Make sure all your grounds are on. See, we have brackets and stuff like this hanging. There's a little gib right behind here that goes on. There's another bracket here. There's a gib there that goes on. So we got to take and put all this together, and then we'll be ready to take and put the top on. Okay. So we have the second part of the intake manifold on, because we have all the brackets and everything that are on the lower part of the intake manifold. So there's a couple of them back here that, these go on here, like right there. So got to take and bolt those on, because we just put the intake manifold on. We already got everything torqued to 12 foot-pounds. We went ahead and copper coated with adhesive spray the gaskets. We're getting ready to take and put the throttle body back on. So we have taken and cleaned both the surfaces, the surface here and the surface here, and we have the copper coating spray on the gasket. So we can take and flip that over and take and do the other side, because we don't want any leaks. So we're coming along really well. We're starting to put the brackets on for the accelerator and the cruise control. This right here is a pollution control line that takes some of the crankcase gases and puts it into the intake manifold and reburns that. But just so you won't have any cables left over and you won't know where they go, or hoses left over where you don't know where they go. See, this bracket comes across here like this. It's evident this hose goes on there. So unfortunately, this bracket has to go on first, and then we'll go ahead and pop that hose on, because you can't get to the bolt with the hose in place. A little bit of marvelous engineering, this time from Toyota. So bless all you guys. Thank you very much for making those challenges for us so we can learn. But yeah, things are coming along really well. It's going back together. Once we take and get the throttle body on, we'll put all the hoses on it and everything like that. And then all that's left is the induction system. So this would be the time to check everything over, to take and make sure that you have everything connected and there aren't any holes that shouldn't have a hose on them. There aren't any connectors that are flopping around. So, make sure everything's right. So here we have everything back together, and we've checked it. Everything looks good. Runs. Heck. No oil leaks. So got everything wiped down. So don't have any hardware left over. So it's a pretty good job. So it's a little bit complicated. I'd probably put this at a 5 or a 6 on the difficulty scale. A lot of moving parts in here. Got to be sneaky on some of the stuff, the way you get it out. Like the valve covers, like this one down here, didn't want to come out, so had to twist, turn, pull, tug, to take and get it out. And then tried to put it back in, and the gasket popped out, so we saw that right away. So want to make sure the whole reason for changing the gasket is because it's leaking. So don't want to take and remove one leak, put another leak in there. But anyway, you should be able to do this job. Do this job in your backyard, in your garage. Hope the weather cooperates with you. And, just take a little bit at a time. You don't have to do it all in one day. Have fun doing it. Take all your nuts and bolts, put them in one place so that you have everything. And have fun with it. Working on cars should be fun. If you're a car guy, you love working on cars. There's some things you like better than others, I must admit. But have fun with it all. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Talk to you next time.